And we are live. Welcome, everybody, to episode number 30 of the Redman Group. The Avengers have assembled. We have on today's panel, Carl of Black Label Logic, Donovan Sharp, he's back with us today. He's on phones. We've got Ryan Stone, the Married Red Pill, and Rolla Tomasi of the Rational Male Series, and of course, yours truly, Richard Cooper, Entrepreneurs in Cars. Today's topic, we originally had another topic scheduled, but we had a conflict, so we've moved it. It'll be done at a later date. Today, we're going to be talking about divorce, what you guys need to know. This is a wheelhouse of mine that I'm really familiar with. I've done a lot of coaching with guys on this subject, so we'll be taking calls towards the end of the broadcast. Donovan will post a number probably about 15 minutes before we start queuing up calls, but let's catch up, see what everybody's been up to, and then we'll kind of do a bit of an intro into today's topic. So if, guys, first of all, if you're watching this as a recording, you're watching it as a recording because you haven't subscribed to the channel and hit the notification bell. Apparently, subscribing doesn't mean that much anymore with YouTube, so you've got to hit the notification bell to be notified of events and then set the reminders so that you get that little bonger on your mobile device or your computer when it starts so you don't miss out. So just make sure you do that if you're watching this recording, if you're live. Welcome, everybody. We've got 153 viewers on right now. Let's catch up and see what everybody's been up to. Donovan, you've been out for a little bit. You were in a little bit of a crisis, I suppose. You want to talk about that and let everybody know where you've been?
Yeah, man. Had a very interesting week. I couldn't make the show last Saturday, obviously, because I was sick. And then on Tuesday, I had a little bit of a health concern, and I overestimated it. It actually turned out to be not a big deal at all. But, listen, better safe than sorry. So spent some time at the hospital. So that was, got a little bit behind on my work. Still managed to have a good week, as you guys can see. I'm in a brand new, nice new studio thing that I've got going on here. I've been working on this for a couple months, so it's nice to finally see this come to fruition. I'm not 100% done yet. I've still got some other customizations to do, but things are coming along nicely. Had a great week on the show. Talked about the fact that women are miserable because they can't have it all for free. They can have it all, but it comes at a cost. Talked about lies that every man should tell his girlfriend. Then yesterday we talked about lies that men should stop telling their girlfriends. So kind of the opposite in that regard. And then tonight, actually early tomorrow morning, probably around 1 a.m., myself and Ed Lattimore are going to be doing a post-fight analysis on the Canelo versus Triple G match tonight. That's going to be live on pay-per-view, and of course Ed Lattimore, heavyweight boxer, always like talking boxing with him. So hit donovansharp.com to check out all the episodes. If you guys want to watch the post-fight analysis, you guys can certainly do that there. But I'm back and better than ever and ready to get things started, man.
Yeah, and just as a reminder, I've updated the description links of all the panelists, sites, blogs, Twitter handles, Patrons even. So if you want to support anybody on the panel, get a little closer to them outside of the Redman Group broadcast, that's where you'd find them. Ryan, I'm going to toss it over to you. What have you been up to, brother?
Got to unmute there. Yeah, it's the old lady and I think this week I've spent one day together having sleeping in the evening. So it's been fairly busy on the personal front. On the social justice warrior side, there was a bit of a hullabaloo here over the past week, if you guys don't know, called banouts, where a bunch of, high-profile moderators tried to get a whole bunch of subreddits removed, including the Red Pill. We've largely weathered that storm, and so for now, it's just putting some polish onto the script for 21 convention coming up on early October.
Cool. Rollo, what have you been up to, man?
Oh, okay. Yeah, lots of good stuff. I have put the fourth book on hold just for probably about 1 month, only because I have to focus on 21 convention like everybody else is. I've got a fairly longer talk to do. I'm going to be doing a 90-minute talk on Friday. I've even got my slot is now locked in. I think Friday we've got Dr. Sean and then Pat Campbell and then me on Friday. So that'll be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to meeting all you guys, and I've got a lot of things that I got to do in Florida. So I'm sort of trying to get all my things together for that. I've got 2 interviews coming up. I've got one, actually 2 of them, both on Monday. I've got one with the Weekly Narrative. I think they're like kind of a conservative talk show kind of thing. So I'm working with these guys, and then I'm going on with Ryan's friend from American Whiner.
Yeah, Alex.
Yeah, Alex. So I'm going on with him because he hit me up and he wanted to talk. And I listened to your interview, and so I'm like, yeah, okay, I'll go on with this guy.
Yeah, he's a good kid. I like him.
Yeah, so I'm going to be doing that on Monday. Those will both be recorded, so I'll just release the links when I'm done with those. And then the big news this week is finally, at long last, after almost 2 years of planning and doing all of this, the Polish version of The Rational Male is now available. And I've been working with these guys in Poland, like I said, for almost 2 years, year and a half, maybe. Really great guys. They're a really professional outfit. It's not just like these guys who just say, "Hey, we'll translate your book," and then you're on your own. I mean, these guys went and created a sister site for The Rational Male, and it's all in Poland, and it's all in the Polish language. And then the Polish book it looks gorgeous right now. And then as soon as we're done with this podcast, I will be updating my blog with all the information for that. So if you are in Poland or you in some way speak Polish, I've got a lot of Polish readers for some reason, and I just think it's great. So been kind of applying myself to that. The book looks amazingly good. I kind of, I'm a designer by trade myself. And then when they were showing me the comps for this stuff, I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to back up off of this and I'll let them do their thing, because they know, the Polish culture way better than I do. So I'm just like, let's just go with the way that you guys want to do this, and we'll see how it works. And I could not be more pleased. I mean, the layout is fantastic. The covers are fantastic. So that's out right now. And it's the first book is available in the Polish language, but then there is the second and the third book will be available soon. So they're not up for sale in Poland just yet, but the first one is.
And there's a link in the description as well for that.
Yeah. And then the other great news that I have right now is the Audible for Positive Masculinity is now in post-production with Peter Rafelson, who's the guy that does all of my sound work for all of my Audible stuff. It's going to be narrated by Sam Boda once again. I got to get his name right. And he just got the audio to Peter, and so we're in post-production for that right now. I would say it'll probably be about another week before that's ready, but it will be up and available for purchase and download from Audible before the 21 convention. So I'm going to make that announcement there. And then finally, I am working on a hardcover version of the first book in English, because the Polish translation has kind of lit a fire under my ass to sort of do a second edition of the first book. And if anybody has got a hold of the first book, it's there's some grammatical errors in it, and there's some things that I could have done a little bit better. Because remember, when I did that book, I was thinking that was going to be the only book that I ever wrote. And so I was cramming as much information into it as I possibly could. And I was trying to get it under 300 pages, and, because I wanted to keep the price down. And so now I'm going to make a little bit, this is going to be the higher end version of The Rational Male. It's going to be a hardcover, and it's going to have a nice little slipcover jacket on it. And I've got a couple of different ways I'm going to go about this. I think I'm going to probably sell it through Barnes and Noble, and just put the first book out in hardcover, but I think probably right around Christmas time that'll probably be available. So that's what I'm doing.
Cool. Carl, what have you been up to, man?
Well, I just put out a new essay, so it was I haven't done like one of the old school gendernomics essays in a while, so I kind of had a good idea for one of those with a product positioning map. I'm not sure if you're familiar. I'll put up the thing on my screen here. And I just kind of came up with, if you look at the different type of men in the sexual marketplace, the only way you can really say what's alpha and not is to see how women respond to it. And that was one of the things that Hartiste was arguing with. And we've spent a lot of time, looking at different ways to describe alpha, describe beta, and that always turns into the same shitstorm with, well, he's not really alpha because he's not a good Christian, or he's not really alpha because he doesn't have, a Jesus beard and uses the word virtue 19 times per second. So I kind of went and I created this positioning map. So you really want to be in like the top right hand corner there with the greater alpha, but it's basically a trade-off between how easy sex is to get and how high quality the man is, because you have a lot of scumbags that are alpha based on women's reaction to them, and you also have a lot of guys who are high quality men who are beta as fuck. So it's kind of to try and point out where people fall on this map, and it's just a way of seeing, okay, I'm here now and I need to get to that place, so how do I do that? And other than that, I've just been playing around with Tinder some more. I mean, that's the Dream Johnson opener gets some very funny reactions. Like, very few women can. Most women will respond to it, and they had a great one yesterday. Because for those who aren't familiar with that opener, it's a version of, I want to come on your face and declare you my girlfriend.
Yeah.
And a version of that. So one of the girls responded with, I did not see that coming. And I just couldn't stop laughing.
Tingles activated.
And I just had to, I had to respond to that. That's what she said. So I'm not really sure how that's going to go from there. But,
oh, God. You got to love the classics, man.
I'm just having way too much fun with this. It's almost like I'm back doing improv again.
When you're done with that, we really ought to do an episode, a definitive episode on the definitions of alpha and beta and all the kind of terminology that we use, because I think a lot of haters tend to like to use that as some sort of launch point to disqualify you.
Yeah, that's not very masculine, dude. Shut the fuck up.
I know.
You should have heard
You're not. You're the rational male.
Yes, it doesn't sound very rational to me, dude. Shut the fuck up.
Yeah, well, I think it would be great to do. It would be great to just have that discussion, because I don't even think people are having that discussion. That's the first thing people ask me about, as they say.
Well, Pat Campbell's fans are.
yeah, that is true.
But see, here's the thing, man. A lot of people, nobody has this discussion in terms of what exactly is an alpha male, but a lot of our detractors seem to know what an alpha male is not. Or at least they seem to know. You can't tell me what it's not if you know what the hell it is. So just close.
We really need to have maybe even a double episode on like what is alpha and what is beta, and just like how we.
Well, let's save that for another.
Definitely.
Let's talk the divorce talk today. Updates from my end. I've been really busy. I've been spending a lot of time in my analytics and planning out basically my fall season. I've got a whiteboard over here on my wall with all my next batch of videos, and I'm kind of going back to my wheelhouse, doing things in the car. I did a couple of videos the other day that I got up. I got to edit and put cards in, but they'll be live on my channel next week. I'm really looking forward to getting feedback on those. But let's hop straight into this topic today, because I think if I were to organize the content on my channel within the top 4, there's a video that's got over 500,000 views that I talk about divorce facts. It's something that I've done at least half of my coaching calls on when it comes to talking to guys that are trying to get out of a bad marriage or something that's not working, or they're kind of in the middle of getting separated, divorced, and they want to make sure they don't lose the farm. To kind of throw some stats out there, we've talked about this in the past, and I'm sure that the panelists will have something to add to this as well. But like, women still get about 80% of custody orders. They're still the primary caregivers for the vast majority of payments. Like, money flows from the guy to his ex-wife. I think the number is something like 90% of the time. There's also other stats beyond that where I think men's chances of committing suicide, I think, multiply by 5 times if they're going through a divorce or if they're post-divorce. It's an incredibly high risk, low reward scenario for men. And to get through it properly and without, again, losing the farm and losing access to their children, you've got to be very, very attentive to the way that you go through it. And it's pretty similar throughout the Western world. I mean, there's still places, I think in Eastern Europe, the legislation is still reasonably friendly towards the father. There's places in the world where there's a default what do they call it? I can't remember what the legal term is, but basically default shared parenting, meaning if you get divorced, it's assumed that the children will spend half the time with the father and half the time with the mother. But that's not the case in North America. I mean, again, still the majority of the custody arrangements get awarded to the mother. And it's not because the fathers are bad. I mean, there's a lot of stories that always, well, even if he's a drug dealer or somebody that can't hold down a job, like there's a lot of unreasonable arguments that get tossed around for custody arrangements. So in this broadcast, we want to examine divorce, what guys need to know, and we'll start taking some questions. So I guess why don't we start it with this one question, like what is it that you think guys should know that they don't know when it comes to divorce in the Western world? I'll start because I see, you guys kind of, chuckling at a few things there in the notes, which I've missed the opportunity to get into. But I think that what guys need to know that they don't know that they should be more attentive to is they need to spend more time planning the exit properly. The odds are stacked up against you. The woman tends to be the leavor and the man tends to be the leavee. Like women announce a divorce about 7 out of 10 times. So there's not a lot of planning that goes into it. And they usually just kind of like go along for the ride, not knowing what they're going to get into. And I'll just share this one story very quickly before I pass it off to the rest of the panel. I had a coaching call with a guy yesterday. He was a Canadian guy, and he booked my time to talk about getting through the separation period while still stuck in the matrimonial home and not losing his sanity. And we kind of got into the discussion, and as to basically sum up a long story, his wife was treating him like a nanny, taking care of their daughter about, well, we're going to say like more often than not, it was about 80% of the time. And after the house would sell and he moved out, he would have visitation rights. And I hate that word. Visitation rights is completely, it's really obnoxious because no father should have visitation rights to his children. The children should have equal access to both parents. They do far better when they have equal access to both parents. You release them upon the world, a much more useful member of society. So it's the whole planning concept that I think guys don't get. They kind of like go with the punches and they think that, oh, everything will be fine if I just follow her lead, so to speak. Anyway, I want to pass it off to you guys. Who wants to take up that question next? What do you think guys should know that they don't know when it comes to divorce?
Okay, well, I guess I'll go. Well, either one. Go ahead, Rolly. You got it. I'll go.
I was just going to say, as I get a lot of guys, I mean, some of the guys that I counsel are going through divorces right now. And I'm kind of a little bit out of my element here because I've never been through a divorce, but I am a child of divorce. And I have dealt with enough friends and dealt with enough guys that I counsel that I think I can at least speak educatedly on what you guys should look for. I think one of the things that I think guys really need to understand right now is like, I think that I get a lot of calls from these guys who would say, Rollo, I'm getting married in such and such a time. Should I get married? Or they want my permission to say, to get married. And I always tell them that the first thing that they need to do is they need to go and they need to download or rent the documentary called Divorce Incorporated. And if you can watch that, and if you can get through that, and you can understand what you're signing yourself up for when you're getting married, and if you can, if you can understand and make an educated, decision for yourself after having watched that, then, at least you're going in with your eyes open, I think. But I would suggest that anybody who has a problem with divorce right now, or is going to call in here and tell us their stories today, I think first of all, you should go and watch that movie. It really opened my eyes to a lot of stuff when it came to, like, especially the legalities of things and the industry that is sprung up around divorce. There is a verifiable industry for marriage, and then that marriage industry feeds into the divorce industry. And we've got guys who are lawyers, who are specific lawyers, women as well, who are specific lawyers who have made a living on perpetuating divorce settlements, because the longer it takes, the more money that they make. And I think that that's another aspect that a lot of guys don't really think of. So when you're preparing for an exit, if you see the writing on the wall, I think it's important to see that, because like what Rich was just saying a minute ago is most women usually check out of the marriage long before the guy does.
Yep.
As we said, most guys are beta, and so they want to make things work out. Every last guy that I've ever worked with who wants to get his wife to start having sex with him again, every guy who is facing down a divorce or is considering a divorce, they don't want to get divorced. They want to make it work out. They all want to find a way to if you could just find the magic words or the magic formula to say the right things. The cheat codes, like I'm playing God mode. That kind of shit. They really desperately want that. They don't want to get divorced. And I think it's really interesting because most of the women that sign up for this or that decide that they're going to get divorced have already checked out of the marriage long before, like 6 months, a year beforehand. And they're already planning.
A lot of planning on the exit.
From my perspective, from my angle, it's like when you see women like just killing themselves in the gym, that's planning. Okay. When they've never been in the gym before and they get a personal trainer and they're they're planning to exit the marriage. If anybody has read my second book, Preventive Medicine, there is a specific time in a woman's life. Usually it's right around her middle 30s. And if she's been married, say since her late 20s, that's when she's starting to consider an exit. That's when, it's this idea that I better make my decision and get out of this marriage before I'm 40 and I can't do anything else after this. It's at that point, they call it the 7-year itch. It's like 7 years after they've been married. That's when they decide, I need to get out of this marriage while I still have my looks and I can find something better.
There's actually two milestones. There's year 7 and then year 19.
Yeah.
Seven is when women figure the kids are more independent and they can exit. They can look after them. They can still have their freedom, go out. And then 19 is when they move out, basically. So there's those 2 windows when that.
There's the, I'm glad you mentioned that too. Cause like right around 19, 20 years is when you're going to be an empty nester. And that's when you got to look across the table at her and say, what do I really have in common with this woman? And I remember, I've been married for 22 years. I attribute a lot of the success of my marriage to being red pill and to having that awareness. And there's probably going to be a million MGTOWs in the chat right now going, don't you know how dangerous it is? I can't believe you would just say I'm not particularly anti-marriage, but I am anti-marriage in this era. I am very much, I think marriage actually had a point and had a purpose in our past. We can discuss the benefits or the detriments of quote unquote enforced monogamy, according to Peterson. But I think that in this day and age, it is, ever since the sexual revolution and, like just say the late 60s, I think that it has become increasingly more and more dangerous. And that's what we see in marriage rates right now. We see guys who are just simply looking at this. You don't even have to be MGTOW. You just look at this and you say, you know what, this is a bad deal.
Yeah.
You don't even have
it's a really bad deal. Like any guy that's even a guy that might even potentially even lean into the far MGTOW area would just look at it and go like, look, would you jump out of a plane with a parachute that's only guaranteed to open half the time?
Right. Well, that's why I tell the guys, I say, if you're going to be married, if that's something, especially if you have like religious convictions or something like that, and you're thinking, okay, I don't want to have sex until I get married. Well, if that's your case, then you owe it to yourself to be as red pill aware as you can possibly be. And you need to be able to be the person who is the primary in that relationship. You need to be the dominant masculine one in that relationship. You need to have the frame that she is entering into. And you need to definitely be the decision maker. And if that is in any way challenged, if that is in any way, something that if you think that, it's all about egalitarian equalism and we're going to play equal in our relationship, you are headed for disaster. And I mean, like, not just financial disaster. That's another thing I think people don't understand is like when you get divorced, it impacts your kids, it impacts your finances, it impacts your family, it impacts your friends, and it impacts you for the rest of your life. So you will always be bound to that, especially if you have kids, you will always be bound to that person no matter what. I don't think people really realize that, particularly women. Because when I think that, I've discussed this with Dalrock a few times, but there is what we call the divorce porn industry, where it's like this eat, pray, love narrative, where
Yeah,
they sell women on this idea that all Stella's got to get her groove back. You're just going to go to, you're going to divorce your husband and you're going to fly off to Jamaica and you're going to find some guy with a big dick and you're going to have a real fun time and you're going to get back into being who you are and your real self. And they're going to, I mean, even 50 Shades of Grey, it was selling women on the idea that if they just got rid of their boring beta husbands that they married when they were in their epiphany phase, that everything will be all right, and then it's a better deal. But they don't consider the fallout that comes from that, from the family and everything else. So I mean, maybe that's where I should begin with all this, is like, when it comes to the women who are deciding to get divorced, seeing the signs for guys is very, very important. So, man, that's my 2 cents.
All right, let's throw it off to Donovan. What do you think guys should know that they don't know when it comes to getting divorced in today's world?
Yeah, this is interesting. In light of tonight's, middleweight title fight between Canelo and Triple G, I don't know if I think Carl Rollo's definitely old enough to remember this. Richard, I know you are. I definitely am. Back in February of 1990, Buster Douglas versus Mike Tyson. He enters the ring against Mike Tyson as a 42-1 underdog. Now, here's the thing: nobody thought that Douglas was going to win the fight. Not even Buster Douglas. Like, he can say, "Oh, I had all the confidence." No, dude. Like, you planned to get knocked out in the 3rd round. Like this, even when Buster Douglas won the fight, he couldn't believe he won the fight. So Buster Douglas's manager said to James, he says, "Look, dude, we don't have a snowball's chance in hell to beat this guy. Okay. But we're not just going to go in there and take a dive. This is what guys do when they see an imminent divorce." They said, "This dude is 37-0. He's got 35 knockouts, but Tyson hasn't been past the 3rd round in something like 14 of the last 15 fights. So if he can just survive past the 3rd round, we might have a chance. You've got a 12-inch jab reach advantage, right? So you can keep him away." And this is exactly what Buster Douglas did. If we make it into the later rounds, go to the body, take his win, and maybe we can get out of here without getting knocked out. Maybe we can lose in a majority decision, maybe a split decision. Well, of course, Buster Douglas famously knocked out Tyson in the 10th round and shocked the world. Now, here's the thing. And stay with me because I'm going somewhere with this. Tyson was not at his best on February 11th in 1990. Number one, he didn't train. He split with his longtime trainer, Kevin Rooney, went with a less experienced manager. He had this public divorce, of course, with Robin Givens. His life was spiraling out of control, of course, because Don King's hands were in his pockets, allegedly. Dude, they didn't even have the end swell cold compress in his ring. They had to use a rubber glove with ice in it to keep his eye from swelling, and that didn't help him at all. He was literally fighting with one eye for the second half of the fight. But let's give credit where credit is due. Team Douglas had a plan, and that's why they won the fight. Divorce is much the same way. When a man walks into family court or divorce court, guys, we know he's got no shot, right? Longer odds even than, I would say, Buster Douglas. The fact that our court system is so obviously heavily biased towards women, they're now incentivized to file for divorce because in all likelihood, they get full custody of the kids. They're going to get entitled to half of the man's present and future earnings. They get the family home, the dog, and all that stuff. But these scenarios happen, Richard, when men just go in there and play dead. Just like you said, they think, well, there's no need in fighting this because I don't have a chance, so I'll just do whatever I'm told. Which is the same as a man accused of murder getting a court-appointed attorney who will basically escort him or her to the electric chair. What men don't realize is that they have, in order to keep from getting taken to the cleaners, you got to have a plan. So to answer your question, what should men know that they don't know? The first thing, and I'll try to keep this as short as possible. Number one, you have to accept the fact she's gone, man. Dude, a lot of men, just like Rollo said, they make the egregious mistake in thinking that there's a chance to reconcile. Men need to put this out of their minds. Dude, she's already fucking other guys. She already has a boyfriend. She's already moved on. Men who do this are delaying the inevitable. Now, sometimes she'll make you think there's a chance, but she's setting you up. That's a manipulation technique. She's doing this because she wants more money, more child support, more of your shit. Guys have to know not to let your soon-to-be ex-wife not to tempt you with possible reconciliation. That's false. Here's another thing that guys should know that they don't know. And I've been through a divorce. My divorce was easy. It cost me $12. We didn't have any money or kids, so it was very uncomplicated. I am very fortunate I don't know, maybe the red pill god smiled on me because I could be in a very different place had the pendulum swung in either direction in any one of the crazy scenarios I've been in. Don't move out, guys. And the reason why you don't move out is because that could easily be characterized by your soon-to-be ex-wife as abandonment. If the house is also in your name, and it probably will, you have every right to be there as she does, right? Now, again, this isn't legal advice, but ask your attorney. If she asks you to move out, guys, don't move out. You live there too. Okay, here's the thing though. Don't kick her out, because now what is she gonna say? She's gonna say, well, he kicked me out. She'll take the kids to her mom's house or her friend's house and she'll say, well, he kicked us out. He abandoned us. If you move out, or if you don't move out, she will probably end up leaving. But you have to make sure that you document that she left on her own accord and that you did not force her. Right? Now, again, you have to talk to an attorney about how to establish that she left of her own free will and volition. Again, she'll also take the kids. She'll also take the kids and say that you kicked her out. One more. This is very, very important. Be careful what you write, say, or text. Actually, I've got one more after this one. Here's one you really have to understand. And I can go on like this forever, but I'm going to end it here. Do not get your family and friends involved, guys. Listen. If you're going through some shit with a woman, I know it's hard to keep the shit all to yourselves, man. But don't tell them anything. Don't tell them details. Don't do anything. Because here's the thing, man. Your soon-to-be ex-wife could get information out of them, especially her family members, and use what you've told them against you. You could be venting to who you think is your friend and tell her, that fucking bitch cheated on me. I could kill her. Well, guess what? Your buddy could inadvertently tell her, one of her friends. This gets back to her. And all of a sudden now she's in court saying, well, he threatened to kill me. Listen, don't think for 1 second that a judge won't disingenuously mischaracterize a figure of speech as a real threat. Listen, do not communicate with her family or friends. Don't say anything. Definitely don't communicate with her family, because they're looking to fuck you over too. So I could talk about this for ages, but these are just a few of the things that guys should know. I actually have an entire episode on this, episode 322. How to win your divorce. Go to donovansharp.com or patreon.com/donovansharp. I think it's like an hour and a half episode.
Who's up next? Carl, what do you got to say? What do men need to know that they don't know when it comes to divorce?
Well, I think it's the first thing is with what marriage actually is, because a lot of guys, it's just a personal, the formalization of their relationship with a woman. But it's a social relationship because it gives you a certain esteem in your community. It's a personal relationship, obviously. It's a family relationship because you're technically joining two families together. So they have their say about it. But most importantly, it's a legal and a financial relationship. And that's inviting the state into your personal life. And marriage is a lot like heroin. It's very easy to get into it and very difficult to get out of it if you start it the right way. So I'd say document everything from before you get married all the way through your relationship, and make sure you keep all this documentation in a location that only you have access to. I would say something like a safety deposit box, because if there's questions about child custody, if there's questions about money, anything, if you can't document it, it's word against word. If you can document, here are 7 emergency room visits while I was out traveling for work. Here is the receipt from the rehab facility that I paid for my wife to go into, etc. Then you have something to back yourself up with. Yeah. And secondly, always keep, a war chest, which isn't, you don't have to keep hundreds of thousands of dollars, but I saw George Bruno tweeted this out about this friend of his who's been a stay-at-home dad for something like 15 years. And his wife decided to branch swing on him because, women may think that they can have a stay-at-home husband, but they can't. It just doesn't work. So, but this guy, he doesn't have any money. He hasn't had a job for 14 years. Her house, her cars, everything is in her name. So he's basically out on the street now with nothing to his name. And he just put himself in a really bad situation. And a lot of guys do this because they don't realize that once that divorce is filed, a lot of women will max out the credit cards. They will switch everything from joint accounts to their accounts, etc. So make sure you keep your own accounts with your name on it that they do not have access to. They don't even have to know about it. Big fan of Donovan's approach of having a safe stashed somewhere that she doesn't know about with some cash in it that you can grab when you need it, along with, important ID ID documents, pink slips for cars, etc. Just document the crap out of everything. Even if you have a period where you're fighting a lot and she's acting out, record it. Everyone can have a recorder on their phone.
Mm-hmm. And one of the things that guys should really know about the whole war chest thing, well, in Canada anyway, there's a form you have to sign called a 13-1, which declares your financial status to the other side before you guys finalize a separation agreement. And it's a legally binding contract. So you're not supposed to be deceptive and say, I don't have 17 gold bars buried off site on 13 acres that my grandfather has, sort of thing. But let's be honest. The thing with divorce is, like, Donovan was saying, and many of the others, is the odds are stacked up against you. It's like going to battle with the U.S. military and all you got is a slingshot. It's not good. I mean, the odds are bad. The big eye-opening statement for me when I was going through my divorce was when I had the conversation with my lawyer, and he's like, look, if you want to go to court, that's fine. You're my client. I'll do what you tell me to do. But you're in the worst bargaining position ever if you have the penis when you walk into the courtroom. He goes, you do not want to get yourself in that scenario. So there's alternate things that you can do leading up to the divorce, going through the divorce, that nobody really can talk about. I mean, we're not even going to be able to talk about certain principles today in this broadcast. But I mean, if you want to book a one-on-one coaching call and get the down low, there's links down below. I mean, Donovan's talked about it. I've done hundreds of coaching calls and stuff like this. You need to open your eyes. But we're going to talk about this broadly from 20,000 feet today. I know, Rollo, you wanted to add. Oh, wait, Ryan's got to go next. Sorry.
That's all right.
I'm losing track of moderating what's supposed to be going on here. Sorry.
That's okay.
But yeah, I'm like Rollo here. I'm not divorced myself. I am a child of divorce. And so I kind of get to speak from the other side of things. So the first thing I notice is a lot of guys say they're sticking it out for the kids. And I think that's the worst cop out a guy can give. I think I was 5 when my mom first got divorced, and then 18 when she got the divorce the second time. So here's the thing that they don't understand with kids is that we don't have the same frame of reference that adults have. As a kid, to me, that was just normal. Mom left dad. I got to see dad 2 weeks out of the year. I didn't have a frame of reference to treat that as a chip on my shoulder. And I find most adults don't develop that chip until later on in life. So the one thing that I will say that screws up your kids is watching fighting, nagging parents. I kind of gave some personal details on that on a post I did called Replacing Our Fathers, which kind of ties into Rollo's essay on Promise Keepers there. So I find the guys who use their children as an excuse not to take a risk for their own benefit, it's very disingenuous. And I think it's kind of like you're screwing up your kids just so you have an excuse not to make hard decisions. And I don't really respect that. As for tips on divorce, I know Reddit's a place for cat memes and all that stuff, but the Married Red Pill is really a nice place. I'm going to reference a lawyer that we have there, Red Curious. He's actually a Christian Red Pill guy here. But he actually has a post of his. I'll link it in our YouTube chat. And it's just a great source of information on the kind of things you want to think about. And Rich has already touched on it. Donovan's already touched on it. Rollo's already touched on it. Like, for example, if you're booking all the appointments for your kids, big decision-making events, optometrists, school events, all that kind of stuff. Eventually you get these things documented. And then when it comes time for a custody hearing, you're in a better position to argue for what you want. I think a big reason a lot of guys lose custody is they're not willing to fight. And my stepdad was a great lesson for me on that. He had his divorce operation scorched earth, I call it. His plan was basically, my mom, and she justifiably, in his case, he was not a good man. So she had a justified, can take him to the cleaners. Nobody's going to argue that point. So he countered that with, I will burn it all to the ground and give you half the ashes. And I'm not going to lie, that out of all the divorces I've ever seen, the guys talking about divorce rape and stuff, if they saw this, they would shake their heads and not believe it was possible. I mean, he's a fairly wealthy guy. I think he got away with a $150 house that he offered, and that was it. And it took 10 years of her fighting to get that. My brother essentially had to file the charges for her, or the paperwork. And so a lot of it is just being willing to show up. My seat's sinking as I go here, so this adds some dramatic effect.
All right, so Ryan's signing off. Let's throw it back over to Rolly. He wanted to add to that.
I just a few things. It's great to listen to you guys, because then it sort of triggers ideas for me too. I think one of the things that guys need to really be aware of is if you see the writing on the wall, you need to understand that the woman that you are in this relationship with, the one that you really want to work it out with and stay together, if she's checked out of the relationship and if she's planning her exit already, you have to understand that it is in her best interests to turn you into a monster. Okay. It is in her best interests to make it sound as if you are somebody who you actually aren't.
Yes.
So that she can get more money, or she can get the kids or whatever else is there. So you could be the greatest guy in the world and wash your daughter's hair and do homework with the kids and, go to little league practice and do all this great stuff and be this great guy. But people, especially in a feminine primary social order, want to believe the worst of a man. So we want to say, well, it's, it's the guys who you would never suspect who are the most evil monsters that could possibly be. And the reason I say this is because if you watch Divorce Incorporated, you will see that is a tactic, a common tactic that women will use but they're encouraged to do so by their lawyers, because again, the longer it takes, the more money the lawyer can get out of the split. Is, people want to believe, oh, well, not with my lawyer. My lawyer's going to be cool with me, or why my lawyer's going to be all right. Their best interest is to gravy train you as much as possible. So even if your wife is the sweetest woman in the world and you're splitting up with her and you've been the best, most perfect father and husband that you could possibly be, it is in her lawyer's best interests to turn you into a monster. Now, I see guys do this all the time. I can't believe she did this. She turned against me. I couldn't understand why she did all this stuff. Well, the reason that she's doing that is maybe not because she's like that, but because she is being encouraged to be like that because of the divorce industry. So what happens is you'll go to, like, a lot of guys who hit me up, they'll say, what is it? Marriage counseling doesn't work. Well, yeah, of course it doesn't work. It's designed not to work.
Right.
There is what's the first thing that the divorce attorney is going to say? Well, did you guys try to work it out? Did things not go well? Well, the reason that attorney is saying that is because she wants you to go to some, clinical psychologist so that it's on the books that you went there. And even in spite of all of that, you had to, you're still getting divorced. And it turns out that according to the psychologist, that the guy is actually this horrible, evil asshole because he won't come to terms with what the woman needs out of the relationship. So that's why she's leaving. And so you've got this attorney on her side. You've got this marriage counselor on her side. And so now suddenly the guy who is this perfect, nice father is turned into this evil asshole. And so as such, you have this industry and this society that is looking for the worst in a guy. They're looking for, there's what I call an anger bias already. So the guy is already going to be presumed to be more angry than a woman ever could be, because there's an anger bias against men. Women will look for signs of anger in men, and this is an evolutionary fact, is that women would err on the side of too much caution that the guy might be angry than not. And so that transfers over into a societal impression that guys are always more angry, or guys always have a potential for violence, or guys are always potential rapists. And so that transfers over into this whole divorce process. So when you go into court and you're up against, maybe if it's a female judge, and she's looking for the worst in you, and she believes the woman long before she believes anything you have to say, and then she thinks that little by little she's going to chip away at this horrible men need to learn a lesson from this guy, so she's going to make an object lesson of this guy and give him a really shit deal in his divorce. And so this sweet woman that may have decided that she wants to have some sort of amicable split has been encouraged by the industry and by the machine to become something that she maybe never set out to be in the first place, because you have all of this preset prejudice against the guy, because the more of that they can stoke, the more money that they can squeeze out of that divorce. So that's something that guys need to understand, because once you're in that process, once you see the writing on the wall, you have to understand that any little thing you do is going to be blown completely out of proportion. I had a friend of mine he had got into a fight with I think it was his second wife, and he was being very rational about it and being very, upfront. And apparently she was a little buzzed, or she was a little drunk, and she was throwing all this shit at him, and they were splitting up, and she wanted to take the car and get away. Right. Well, she was drunk. And so what does the guy do? He says, no, you're not going out. You're not taking the car. You're drunk. I'm not going to have you, driving. So what did he do? He snatched the keys away from her.
Right.
And that snatching, taking
assault
is assault. And you know what? She calls in, the cops come, they grab him. He goes to jail. He goes back, and once he gets out, once his parents, his dad bails him out, now he's living at home. Now he's paying for rent for a place that she's living in, paying for the car that he snatched the keys away from. And her kids, because she was a single mother, he's paying for the kids to stay there. And it's all of this money that goes into this. So she's living rent free for 6 or 8 months while the divorce proceedings go through, all because he snatched the keys away, because it was in the best interest of keeping her safe and off the streets. So
all right,
that's the industry. That's the machine you have to be aware of.
Yeah. Okay. So 2 more things that I want to add to this before I throw it off to Donovan and Carl. Then we'll take calls. I want to distinguish the 2 different kinds of divorces. You've got with kids and without kids. When you don't have children, it's fairly straightforward, right? It's, you take the assets, you put it in a pile, you slice it down the middle, you take your half, I'll take my half, see you later. Unless there's a prenup that sets that aside. And it's not always going to hold water. I mean, the longer, so the way prenups work, basically, the more time that passes between when you sign the prenup and when you actually need it, like if it's 2 years versus 7 years, a 2-year-old prenup's a lot stronger than a 7-year-old prenup. But again, if there's no kids, it's fairly straightforward. Assets in a pile, split it down the middle, fuck off, I'll take mine, and off we go, sort of thing. When it comes to kids, though, that's where things get very complicated and difficult. To be involved in his children's lives. I mean, he wants to be involved in raising them, spending time with them, taking them to extracurriculars, all that sort of stuff. But the thing about family law in the Western world is it doesn't leave any incentive whatsoever for women to behave well during divorce. In fact, the opposite is true. It encourages women to behave badly throughout the course of divorce. One of the things that we've talked about many times before is hypergamy. I'm a believer that divorce law is actually facilitated for women to optimize their hypergamy. So basically what that means is they get the kids, they get the house, they get the car, and the money, and they don't need your dumb ass anymore, and they still have access to all the things that they had when they were married without having to put up with your shit. That's literally what I've heard women tell me, when I get into conversations on stuff like this, when they get open about it. You have a couple of glasses of wine and all of a sudden they're singing like a canary, sort of thing. But it should be noted that like family law is just that way. So don't sleepwalk into it thinking, oh, well, everything will just be tickety boo and we'll be fine, sort of thing. No, fuck. It doesn't work that way. You've got to be attentive when you go through the process. You really have to plan it, because I guarantee you she's planned it months in advance. I'm going to stop talking because I could keep going on about that forever. Let's throw it over. Who's next? Donovan and then Carl.
Yeah, just a couple of real quick things. Something about what Rollo said about marriage counseling being absolutely useless. It's designed not to work. I would agree, but marriage counseling, and I'm using air quotes for those of you guys just listening, I compare this to a woman whose end game is to get gastric bypass as a cheat code for her weight loss. But what she does as a prerequisite is she goes out and gets the fitness equipment. She gets the gym equipment. She signs up for Zumba class. This way she can tell everybody, well, I tried everything and nothing seemed to work. So now I have to have gastric bypass because I'm some genetic anomaly that requires the cheat code. Well, it's the same with marriage counseling. Once you are in marriage counseling, the marriage is already over. At that point, they're just looking for a reason to say, well, we tried marriage counseling, so now we really have a reason to get divorced. No. Her mind was made up before you guys set foot into the marriage counselor. And Richard, I'd actually like to get your quick take on this after I talk about this war chest. The war chest for me, and I don't know what the laws are in Canada. If I were to have a war chest, it would be strictly off the books. Basically, I'm stuffing money in a chest, or not a chest, a safe somewhere, maybe a safe deposit box, something that can't be traced or tracked. Because if your ex-wife or soon-to-be ex-wife knows that you have it, she's going to mention that. But before I get your take on that, here's one more thing that men need to understand. Do not agree to anything. Don't agree to anything verbally. Don't agree to anything. Listen, don't agree to anything verbally via text or email. Here's the thing. Women will use this tactic against you, like we have all talked about earlier. Your soon-to-be ex-wife will try to appeal to your sense of fairness and take advantage of your provider instinct. And again, she's doing this to set you up. She knows you still love her. She knows you still love the kids. And she will attempt to get you to agree to certain things to get more shit for herself. Again, women are selfish. And they will use any and all techniques to get as much as they can out of you legally or otherwise. Don't fall for it, guys. Don't fall for the guilt trip stuff. Well, you don't love your kids? You don't want to be a good father? This is why you need to limit your communication with her in the first place and watch what you say, write, or text to begin with. Again, I'm not a lawyer. I don't know the laws, but my guess is that can be used against you in a court of law. And here's another thing. She could show text messages in court that says that you agreed to give her $1,000 a month for child support. She can use an email that said that you agreed to pay for health insurance. She could record a phone conversation that you agreed to let her have the house or give her full custody. I don't know if that's admissible, but again, we know how biased the court systems are, so why wouldn't they? Don't agree to anything. Don't give her anything. Again, don't buy into her threats either. Don't buy into well, they're going to give me the house, the kids, the car, the dogs, and half your paycheck anyway, so you may as well do it anyway. She doesn't know one way or the other. That's why she's trying to get you to agree to it. Anything she gets should be court-ordered and negotiated through your attorneys. You need to communicate with her with the mindset that she is trying to fuck you over. Don't try to be that good guy. That shit's useless. Too many men get caught up in trying to look like the good guy, which is understandable because women are experts at smear campaigns, just like Rollo said. But if you agree to anything without your lawyer present, you are literally fucking yourself. There's no need to do any of that. So, Richard, real quick before we get to Carl, I know he had something real quick after this. What are your thoughts on a war chest that's sort of off the books? Because in my estimation, I say have the liquid assets that you can just open your safe and get the hell out of Dodge at any time. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, like legally speaking, again, I'm not a lawyer, so I'm not giving you legal advice, but from my understanding on that and through my own experience and my conversations with my lawyer, you need to declare all of your assets, your liabilities, everything. Now, can you convert some of your wealth into gold bullion, cryptocurrency, stash it in your brother's safe? Yeah,
there you go.
For it.
Yep.
I mean, listen, all's fair in love and war as far as I'm concerned, and family law legislation is not fucking fair. So again, if you're going through divorce, be attentive to it. You need to plan it accordingly. You need to walk into it with your eyes wide. Guys don't understand what they're walking into. Guys have no fucking idea what they're walking into when it comes to divorce. Yeah. If they've never sat down with a divorced person, they've never watched a video like this, or even like just go watch the 30-minute video on my channel. It's the third most popular one. I'll dig it up before the end of the broadcast and link it so you can see it. But watch that 30-minute broadcast and you'll see guys going, yep, that was my experience in the comments, and women going, you're a fucking asshole. And it's not always like that. And not when, not women are like that and blah, blah, blah. It's like, well, why do all these men have these experiences back to back? And I'm not talking
that are all the same
10 or 100. I'm talking fucking thousands of comments from guys going, yep, that was my experience. So,
right.
I mean, I'm not saying this to be a dick or to be disparaging or anything like this towards it, like, the other sex. It's just that's the reality of the equation that you enter into. So, the war chest notion, by all means, you're not a fucking lawyer. You're not held to these, specific standards. Do what you got to do to make sure that you get out the other end properly without living in your parents' basement. I mean, there's a ton of guys out there when they get divorce rate, she gets the house, the car, and the kids, and she sees them 80% of the time. And then he gets what my lawyer called was the every other weekend screw over the daddy deal, where basically he's got visitation rights. What does that mean? Well, if she meets Chad Thundercock and wants to fly off to the Calgary oil, fields or something like that and live with him and change the kid's last name and introduce him to a different religion that you don't agree with, administer medical procedures that you don't agree with, she's the primary caregiver. You can sit back on the sidelines twiddling your thumb, writing fucking checks to her every single month with access to your kids at Christmas or for once a week in the summertime, and watch how well she alienates you from the children, right?
Yeah.
I'm not saying that happens
already.
Yeah, like I'm not saying that happens all the time, but that is a worst case scenario that happens more often than not than what guys are willing to admit. Anyway, I'll get off my rant.
No, that answers the question though. So for all you guys who are afraid to put money in a safe or give something as gifts so they can hold it on to you, dude, by all means do it, because trust and believe your wife is doing that kind of shady shit too.
And a local example for this too, I think, Rich, you were just talking about this on Twitter, how Ontario just passed a law where if your kid, like it's a transgender identity thing that they can take your kids from you.
Yeah, I just posted about that. You know, I was going to just let me interject here real quickly. One of the things I constantly get feedback from women on is whenever I'm talking about single mothers, and we were just talking about this on Pat Campbell not too long ago, or actually we were talking about it here too. When you talk about single mothers and what the fallout is and what the statistical, results, the consequences are for that. Like I was getting into this big, long Twitter battle with a bunch of feminists who were talking, I threw out there that one of the stats is like, children, like boys of single mothers are 80% more likely to be, to turn into rapists, are far more likely to be criminals, far more likely. And so we're talking about this single motherhood thing and the results of that and why it's bad for a kid not to have two parents in the thing. Well, what's the first thing that women say? Well, if men would stand up and man up and then take over and be inclusive and not be absentee parents, well, then what does that do? It gets back to the marriage thing. And it's like, well, if divorce wasn't the way it is, and just everything that we've been talking about up to this point, if divorce wasn't in the state that it is right now, maybe that wouldn't be such a big deal. Maybe there would be more, people actually wanting to get married and staying married and being good parents and putting themselves into, dedicating themselves to be that. So we don't have 80% of boys being rapists with single mothers, and we don't have all of that fallout. But the thing is, and what women will say is like, then you come out with the stat where you say, well, 70% of divorces are initiated by women. What are women going to say? They're going to say, well, it's because men are such shit. Men are such shit that 70% of women have to initiate the divorce. Well, when you look at the divorce industry and everything that we've been talking about right now, why would guys want to get involved with that? Why would anybody want to do with that? That's why guys want to stay in the marriage. It's not because guys are like overwhelmingly assholes. It's because guys are overwhelmingly beta. It's because if guys wanted to get out of the marriage and they wanted to be, if they just wanted to leave, I mean, why is 42% of single, or 42% of births are in the United States anyways, are to single mothers? I mean, why is that? You got to ask these questions, and it's not just because guys are assholes that women got to step up.
That would be a step up for guys, actually.
Yeah, and so when you look at that, I mean, then look at the divorce industry that's behind that. Of course, 70% of women are going to do that. You got the divorce porn industry behind that. You've got attorneys, you've got psychologists, you've got everything that we've mentioned in this podcast up to now. Of course, that's going to happen because it's a big meal ticket. It's a big industry. Watch Divorce Incorporated. You'll understand what I'm saying.
And by the way, guys, before Carl goes and then we start taking phone calls, all of those risks that I talked about with you losing access to your kids and watching how the money all flows to her while all the bad shit happens, you can completely eliminate that if you have a shared parenting plan. If you execute the divorce and the parenting arrangement correctly, where you share parenting responsibilities, whatever that legislation looks like where you live, where it's described as a shared parenting arrangement, where you share decision-making capacity, where there's no unilateral choices to do weird things that you wouldn't agree with, it's gone. It's out the window. But women plan to have primary caregiving responsibilities because it gives them power and money. Carl, I'll pass it off to you before we take calls.
Well, I just wanted to comment on two things, because first, to something that Rollo and Donovan both touched on. I tweeted yesterday that men change. Women change their marketing. Women live in this constant marketing mode. So when they turn a guy into a monster, it's not because he necessarily is a monster or to alleviate. It's just so they can feel okay about divorcing a guy who's actually a good guy. Because they have no real cause for a divorce. That's the whole point of no fault. They can just get a divorce for whatever reason. And in order to not look bad to the rest of the group, they try to market, oh, I'm not horrible for divorcing him. He's actually a psychopath who does all the laundry. And secondly, on marriage counseling, if you get a female marriage counselor, that's a great way from going from having one woman who's constantly nagging you, costing you money and won't fuck you, to having two. That's just the whole point of it. And there's no point in that, in going to marriage counseling. That's just negotiation before the divorce. Just pull the trigger, get the divorce, and whoever files first has an advantage because they get to set the frame of the divorce.
All
Because
right.
if you file first and she comes in afterwards with, oh, he's a horrible guy, he's a psychopath, he abuses me, etc., then you just be, well, she has no proof and she did this after I filed for divorce, so it's just a strategy on her end.
What do they call that? First mover advantage?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah. There's some disadvantages to being the first mover when it comes to divorce because leavies, when it comes to women, they do not like to get left in a marriage if they want you to stay. That's another conversation, different approach. But we got callers on the line. Donovan, what do we got going on?
All right, 914-205-5356 is the number to call if you want to get in on the show. Let's go to our first caller, Jessica in Illinois. You're on live with the Redman Group. What's your question?
We can't hear anything if she's speaking.
Hang on, Jessica, hang on. Getting that we can't hear anything. Hold on. Okay, there you go, Jessica. Go ahead. My bad. Had to switch it over. Go ahead, Jessica. Jessica in Illinois. Go ahead. You're on live with the Redman Group.
Hello. That's okay. All right. So I'm calling in because I actually agree with a lot of things that you men are saying. Obviously, I'm female, so surprisingly, I would agree with some of the things you guys are saying. Just to let you know, twice married on my second marriage. Of course, my first marriage didn't work out. And I'm going to tell you, gentlemen, why. We have a problem in our society. One of your gentlemen on the panel had said like 70% of divorces are initiated by women. You know what? I agree. Women are always making the man look like a bad guy. You know what? I agree. And I'm going to tell you why. Modern women are programmed in schools, at community centers, to believe in this man-bashing stuff. They are. We're raised to believe these things. That our knight in shining armor's responsibility is to come save us from the tower. And if the knight in shining armor doesn't do it appropriately, we're supposed to throw fits and act like a princess. No. Relationships are 50-50, number one. It is called mutual respect.
There we go. Hold on. Real quick, Jessica. That's where I'm going to disagree. But let me ask you this first. Is there a question?
No, not necessarily a question. More of, there are some women out there that do agree with a lot of things that you're saying. A lot of man bashing is going on. But that's because we live in a society that allows women to be programmed as young women to be like this.
Sure, we understand that. Explain to me this. You believe relationships should be 50-50 because I could not be any more diametrically opposed to that very concept.
Yeah, I'm going to kind of go with Donovan on that.
I don't mean, gentlemen, I don't mean financially. I mean, it should be 50-50 give and take. Okay, here's an example.
50-50 respect. I'll grant you that.
Huh?
Like, we should respect each other at least equally. That much I can go with. Beyond that, I'm kind of like, oh, sorry, you were articulating though. Please do.
Yeah, I had a point here. Mutual respect is not just about whose money, whose house, whose kids. No. Mutual respect means that when you get married, you decide to mutually respect that person as an equal. Okay? And you should treat your male counterpart as an equal. I'm not here to demand anything extra from my husband other than...
We're not disagreeing with that, Jessica, but the way family law works is it doesn't encourage women to treat the father of their children as an equal. It encourages women to be the primary caregiver, take full custody of the kids because she has the lady parts, and make all the decision on what happens with the money and their upbringings.
And I'll go one step further on that. I agree with, like you saying, yes, it should be equal until it isn't. And it's not about houses. We don't need a cool car in that. The thing with our possessions and the net worth is that's a symbol of the effort a guy has put into his life. So for Donovan or Rich, that's not their house. That's the thousands of hours they had to put into a career, a lot of sacrifices they make to be able to afford one. So when you can just take that from somebody, it's like you're taking a piece of a guy's life. I know that sounds a bit abstract, but I think most guys kind of intuitively know that. Because I mean, if we can afford a second house, we'll give you one. We don't care.
Yeah, I'll actually,
well, gentlemen,
well, hang on.
I did say it was twice
No,
married, right?
Hold on. Let me.
Right?
Yeah.
Hold on.
You guys did hear this part.
Hold on, Jessica. Hold on a second. I'm going to interject here because
Go
as far as the 50-50 thing is concerned, listen, I'm not going to put a statistic on it, but I will say this. The man leads and the woman follows. You want to know why marriage is fucked up? Is because men don't lead and women don't follow. When you have a leader and a follower in a relationship, that ain't 50-50, right? 50-50 is the politically correct way of saying, okay, well, I want my man to give me respect, but I'm going to respect him too. No, you're goddamn right. You're going to respect me. And unfortunately for most men, they don't really have the testicular fortitude to lay down the law indirectly and show his woman or his wife, hey, listen, man, like this is the program. This train is leaving the station with or without you. You can put a statistic on it. You can put a ratio on it if you want to. You can call it 50-50. I like to call it 90-10, maybe 95-5, maybe 99-1, maybe 100-0. But
Can I ask how? Oh, I was gonna say, can I ask how the first one ended? Like, is that too personal for you, or?
Wait, hold on. I was about to get there.
Sweet.
I'll let you all know. First of all, I lost custody of my daughter. I lost custody.
how the hell did
Remember
that
that.
happen?
I paid child support for 12 years. I paid child support.
Are you a drug addict?
I didn't get nothing. No,
Are
I'm
you in New York?
no.
So,
Oh, that's right, in Iowa.
okay, so now I'm really curious. How did you lose custody of the child? How did you end up paying him child support?
Hold on. Hold on.
Okay, Jessica, sweetheart. No, hold
I'm
on.
a parent.
Hold on, sweetheart. You have to respect the panel, right? You don't tell us to hold on. Now you can speak. Go ahead.
Okay, gentlemen. I'm a paramedic, which means I have a career. Okay.
Congrats.
It isn't always cut and dry. All right. Mama doesn't always get everything she wants, but that's here nor there. I do know men get fucked in court. I know that's a fact. Okay. I know that. I'm not denying it, but let me give you an example. Okay. I work more jobs than either one of my husbands ever have. I put in more hours at 2 and 3 jobs than either one of my husbands have. So if we say the house that I live in is mine, no, it's not mine. It's ours. Okay.
Do you think you're the norm?
Is
Yeah,
No, you sound pretty exceptional. You sound like you work like a beast.
yeah, she's the
I
exception.
don't know. Do you think you're like the average woman is like you, or do you think you're like up there on the exceptional list? I mean, I consider you to be, but
you want to know the truth? I'm gonna agree with you. I'm the exception to the rule.
So how did you lose
Obviously,
custody
if
of
I
your
lost
kids if
custody,
you were okay?
my
all right,
first
I mean,
well, no, I get it.
She lost custody because she's not able to care for the children enough, so the father had to do it because she works too many hours because she chose a career over being the mother, right?
120-hour work weeks. Yes, 120-hour work.
So that's what happened. That's why she wasn't the primary caregiver and he was. That's very odd. That doesn't normally happen.
Having said that, that reversal of that, like if the guy was in her situation, that would be something that we wouldn't even bat an eye at. It makes perfect sense. So it's kind of it's nice. Like Miss, I'm not trying to interrupt you here and mansplain or anything, but it is nice to hear that. Like from the other side, it kind of sucks for you that you has to go to that extreme until you understand it. But like I do appreciate solidarity.
All right. Can we move on to the next caller?
Absolutely. Before we go on to the next caller, thanks for calling in. But Jessica, I got to call bullshit on the 120-hour work week. That means you're working 17 hours a day, 7 days a week.
I also want to call bullshit on the egalitarian equalism part. First off, there are dominance hierarchies wherever human beings are, okay? And especially within a relationship. There are dominance hierarchies in heterosexual relationships. There are dominance hierarchies in homosexual relationships, okay? There's a dom and a sub in any relationship. So don't give me this bullshit about, oh, we're going to be 50-50 or we're going to be egalitarian equalism. That is blank slate horseshit is what that is. And the reason for that is because hypergamy does not seek its own level. It looks for better. Women want a man that they can respect, but they also want a man that they can admire. That guy needs to be just that much above her so that she can be proud and associate herself with a guy, or she likes to be able to think that she is high quality enough to get a guy that is higher quality than herself. And that is, it's complementary to a woman's ego to do that. And second of all, like I said, hypergamy doesn't seek its own level. So you want to know why you're divorced right now? You want to know why your first one didn't work out? Because you believe in this 50-50 bullshit.
Exactly. All right, Donovan, we got another caller?
Yeah, let's go to Mark in Atlanta. Mark, you're on live at the Red Man Group. What's your question?
Hey, good morning. Oh, I can't. This is great. I'm with the Red Man Group. Thank you so much for all the content you guys give. I've been divorced for 8 years and have been through the divorce machine, and everything you guys described as a result is absolutely spot on. I zeroed out. It's taken 5 years to get to a place where I feel back on top. I never want that to happen again. And with you guys stating, I totally, am absorbing the details about prenups don't work. What are some of the strategies a guy can take to never zero out again? Because as soon as a girl lays her toothbrush in my bathroom, I wind up breaking up with her, and maybe that's the way, but I'm
separate.
trying to think of ways of how that never happens.
Caller, do you have kids?
I do. I have 3 boys.
And I'm guessing you're done with making babies? Like, you over that?
Oh yeah, no more.
Yeah. So I mean, like, the way that you avoid that in the future is to never get married again and never live with a woman again, and you're sorted.
Get snipped.
Okay.
But it's fun to practice making kids. Like, let's not
Practice a lot.
Yes.
All the time.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's very healthy for you.
I haven't seen I guess that, if they do start trying to see their belongings encroaching into your home life. I guess
they always try to move in your house, right? I mean, like, you're going to have toothbrushes, and you're going to have tampons under the counter. There's going to be a drawer that's going to be allocated for her stuff. At some point, it's when too much starts to show up, and you're like, okay, hold on a second here. We got some boundaries. There's your place and my place. So let's just, I'm okay with this area of it. But as soon as she starts moving in, and also in the eyes of the law too, I mean, there's been case law, like there's been family law that's proven and demonstrated that if there's a certain amount of time that she spends in your house, even if she's bringing kids in tow over a number of years, and then she has the kids basically say, yeah, well, we looked at him as a provider, you could be on the hook for child support, depending on what family law says in your area, sort of thing. So you got to be careful with that. But I mean, if you're a divorced guy, you got 3 kids, you should be focusing on yourself. Like Rollo says, make yourself your own mental point of origin. You got children that you want to raise. I assume the mother's still in the picture. You want to make sure that they got, reasonable exposure to the mother as well, equally. And you just don't ever put yourself in a scenario where you can risk inviting the state into your house, deciding what happens with your assets and access to children.
Okay. Yeah, and that's kind of been like my mindset is I don't want honestly, I don't really want their stuff in my house. I don't want any corner.
Put it in a bag. Next time she comes over, hand her the bag.
Yeah.
I think this belongs to
Like, my better question is, why don't you do that? Like, the fact you had to ask means you weren't doing it already. So I'm curious. Hello?
I'm sorry. Right? Yeah, I'm here. Do you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
Hello?
Yeah, we're good.
He said, why don't I give her a bag?
It's straightforward. They're moving stuff in. I don't want it. Okay, put it in a bag by the door. Hand it to her next time she comes over. Like, where's the obstacle here?
Yeah, like when she takes off, just say, "Hey, sweetheart, you forgot your toothbrush."
Yeah. It's not mean. It's just a toothbrush.
Right. Oh my God, why are you doing
I
this?
think some of it feels like a little bit of PTSD of getting your ass kicked in the divorce machine. You start seeing, things show up that, oh gosh, if she starts getting in here, I'm going to lose half my shit again. So you just,
use that PTSD to your advantage and get her stuff the hell out of your house, man.
Yeah, your feelings aren't helping you here. Just ignore them.
Yeah, start having flashbacks, like going to these conniptions. Take 2.
Once she leaves, cry into the pillow, have a panic attack, do what you need to do. But until then, just get it in there and hold it together. It's as hard as you want to make it, I guess, is the point I'm making here.
Shit, man. Thanks for the call. Thanks for the
that
call,
was very helpful.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, it's interesting. Before we get to the next caller, every girl, or not every girl, but when a girl really likes you, like if you're banging a girl for, I would say 2 to 3 months, and you start to realize that that you guys start to like each other. Because listen, let's not pretend that we don't start to catch feelings for slut. Like I've done it before. I mean, this is just what happens. But as soon as she starts trying to move her shit into your shit, man, that's when you've got the issues, man.
It's a territory play. Like I've actually heard a woman utter these words. I want bitches to know that this is my stuff. I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, this is what's going through your head? Like, you need to leave this here so bitches know that this is your stuff?
Who peed on my couch, woman? Damn it.
I know. Come on.
Roa, let me ask you this, because you were noticeably quiet on that one. He mentioned what you talk about all the time, getting zeroed out. And Richard gave very pragmatic advice. Listen, just don't get married again. But from a psychological standpoint, and let's get lost in the weeds here. I think people need to know on a psychological level how to not be in a position where they're zeroed out again. What would you advise Mark in Atlanta to do in order to avoid that?
I think the very first thing that you need to do is, if you get zeroed out, is you need to become red pill aware. Most guys who find themselves zero out.
Actually, Rolla, before you explain that part, can you just tell people what zeroed out means? Because
well, being zeroed out means like you built your life up. Maybe you got married. Maybe you have some kids. Maybe you built your career up. You've basically built yourself from the ground up. And a lot of guys put their identity and their egos into their jobs, into who they are. We see this all the time in trad cons. It's always I married my high school sweetheart, and we have 3 kids, and I pay for my bills, and everything comes out of my pocket, and I work 120-hour weeks or whatever the bullshit is, and so it's like there's this ego investment in what a guy has done, and sometimes rightfully so. It's okay to be, I have kind of a mixed feelings about pride when it comes to it's one thing to have pride in yourself. It's another thing to be prideful. And if you want to talk to me about that, we can talk about that later. But anyways, what I was going to say is when a guy gets to that point, and then suddenly his wife, quote unquote, turns on him, and all of this shit comes down, like he's believing in his own self-righteous blue pill bullshit, and then all of that comes crashing down, and the wife takes the kids, and the wife files for divorce, and the wife is in the eat, pray, love mode, and the guy is turned into this horrible monster by the divorce machine. Maybe he loses his job, and then she decides to leave him. This is what I call getting zeroed out. So the guy goes from being way up high to being nothing, to having to go back to zero and having to rebuild himself or kill himself. And that's why we see these guys who will kill their wives or kill their kids and then off themselves, or maybe they just simply off themselves. I attribute one of the reasons why 5 times as many men kill themselves as women is because they do exactly this. If you look at the statistics for suicide for men, it is almost all men who are the highest demographic, I should say, is men between like the ages of 40 and like 55 or somewhere around there. And these are the guys who get zeroed out after having put, so much of themselves together, and then having all that stripped away and taken away from them. So that's what I mean when I say that guys get zeroed out and they have to rebuild themselves. Now, the reason that they have to do this, so that there you go, that's getting zeroed out. I also have a post called Zeroed Out. Just look it up on the Rational Mail. So what happens is these guys are destitute because they have put so much of their identity into what they were. And they don't want to, they look at their future without wives, without, with maybe shared custody of their kids, not being as involved with their kids' lives. Maybe she moves on and gets married again, and then his kids are calling her. You want to know here's a good illustration of getting zeroed out. Watch Mrs. Doubtfire. That is a horror movie. It's an absolute fucking horror movie. And if you look at Robin Williams and Mrs. Doubtfire, if you look at his character, and especially if you know anything about Robin Williams as a human being, it is scary to think about that movie or the plot of that movie, because that is what being zeroed out is. It's having your wife go off and take your kids, divorces you because you were too much of a beta, because you're too big of a chump, and you never really amounted to optimizing her hypergamy, and you are at your lowest point in your life, and you're faced with having to either rebuild yourself or you've got to just basically kill yourself. And so I think that the most important thing that guys need to do in that situation is they need to become red pill aware, and they need to understand what the game that was played on them that brought them to their lowest point. And why did they get there? Because a lot of guys don't have that insight, or they don't want to have that insight because they're still clinging to that blue pill idealism. They're still clinging to that hopeful, oh, if I just found the right woman, or if, she must have been, it's like these guys say when they're getting married to these women, they say, oh, she's a quality woman. Well, when they've been zeroed out, suddenly she's that horrible bitch and I can't believe she turned on me. And it's that kind of realization that guys need to become more aware of. They need to become red pill aware. They need to make themselves their own mental point of origin. They need to change themselves on the most fundamental, rudimentary scale that they can, and then rebuild themselves and remake themselves in a red pill paradigm, and understand that going forward from there, they have to watch out for shit like that. They have to put themselves first. They have to transfer this ideology over to enlightened self-interest. They have to understand that they got to take care of them first, and then maybe if they want to, they can take care of whoever. If you've already had kids, get a vasectomy, do whatever you're going to do. Try to be as best, try to insert yourself and be a pain in the ass to your wife and say, look, I want my kids and I want to be involved in their lives, and I want to have influence on my kids, because I don't want you bad mouthing me and telling these kids, turning them against me and telling them all this bullshit, so that they become completely different people because you couldn't see eye to eye with me, and that kind of shit. So I think it's this rebuilding process, but the rebuilding has to take place in a red pill paradigm. And if it doesn't, you're just going to set yourself up for another fall exactly like this. It's one thing to get zeroed out once. It's another thing to be zeroed out twice or three times because of this shit.
Awesome. So, Donovan, we've got other callers?
Yeah, let's do it, man. Let's go to Jason in DC. Jason, you're on live with the Redman Group.
Hey, appreciate you guys. Thanks for taking the call this morning. I've been enjoying the show, and you guys touched on something earlier that I wanted to kind of call in about, and I'll give you a little context and then kind of pose a question. So it's basically related to hypergamy. Basically, I was in a relationship for 6 years, got married, did the kind of whole bought a house thing, no children. She's very well educated. As soon as we got married, quit that job, kind of just was on the couch, kind of went into a cooking and cleaning role, which wasn't the worst thing, but from there, physical abuse from her parents emerged, just kind of a lot of dysfunction on that side of her family. So kind of took a toll on our relationship. And after several explosive displays, kind of made the decision, like, gosh, this is getting really bad. Maybe we need some time apart. So I've been living apart, have filed for divorce due to that and some other things. No cheating, no children, nothing really of that nature. She's been really, honestly, pretty fine with it throughout. And what my question is that throughout a process like that, when you're in a situation where you think, wow, I'm thinking about maybe having children, or, even if not, spending the rest of my life in a situation where you have in-laws or really an entire side of the family that is physically abusive, financially erratic, so on and so forth. When you're looking down that route and you think, I don't think that I can do this, or this is going to be a situation that I can be the best version of myself in, how do you kind of break free from thinking like, gosh, I feel like now I'm taking on the role of what would be today's modern woman hypergamy, where I'm looking for the next best thing, or, oh, I can do better, so let me go get somebody else. In this situation, I'm not even looking for somebody else per se. I'm just looking to not be weighed down by dysfunction, rampant dysfunction at that. So kind of how do you mentally as a man, I guess, make that distinguishing, argument in your mind where you're trying to be the best version of yourself, but you're also not trying to fall into, what would be considered kind of traditional hypergamy, in that, this is, me looking for something better. Kind of it's a struggle between what's not good for me and not healthy, and what are the things that you can say, well, you just got to pump this up and tough it through and be a man about it.
Are you looking for a justification to not leave that giant red flag you just described?
Yeah, that's what it sounds like to me.
Yeah, there's like, blah, 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 blah. Just case in point.
Yeah.
I wouldn't walk away. Doesn't let the navel gazing happen afterwards. Like if you can,
Mhm.
you're not in a rush. You're not going to hit a wall and lose your ability to make sperm at 32.
Yeah, you're
So
still.
one of the things you have to keep in mind is a lot of guys will have these long lists and they'll spend ages just trying to talk themselves out of doing what's really a 30-second thing they need to do. Like we had a guy on with a bike last week too. Ryan took to task who was going to start working out and he used to lift, etc. And it's the same thing with a divorce. Just get off your ass and do what you have to do and have it be over with. If you walk around for another 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years in this same hellhole and then don't do anything about it, you're gonna be like, why didn't I get out of this shit 6 years ago? So just get the hell out of it.
You need to whip the Band-Aid off, man. Don't pull it off. Pull it off. It hurts. Shit. No, you pull it off and be done with it. That's pragmatism.
Yeah, like I know you think you're processing, but you're not processing. You're rationalizing it away.
Bingo. I think that was relatively simple. All right, let's go to the next caller. Let us go to Armando in California. Armando, you are on with the Redman Group. What is your question?
Hey, yeah, good morning, everyone. This one's for Rolo. You talked about in previous episodes on the RMG show about how monogamy has become a social construct. And one of my favorite things about your work is you use a lot of Evo Psych to justify and back up your work. Love to maybe pick your brain, since it's related to the topic this morning, and how that's become developed in today's society. I know you've talked about how before in our hunter-gathering days, men would just hit it and quit it, right? Leave. We didn't have time for this cuddling bullshit. We were very barbaric. And so now monogamy has become a social construct. And I think it would be important for you to maybe elaborate on that for the knowledge of men today, and just how bullshit it is. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, is it bullshit or is it not bullshit? I think probably when you look at our hunter-gatherer days, I mean, there is a line of demarcation when human beings switched over from being hunter-gatherers to an agrarian society. And so right around the time that we switched from like herding and this nomadic lifestyle to an agrarian lifestyle where we were, farming land and investing in producing food out of the land, that's when monogamy started to make more sense. Prior to that, of course, and how human beings evolved and how hypergamy evolved is, women are looking for the bigger and better deal. They're looking for physical prowess. They're looking for creative intelligence as well. And because those were qualities that made for a good investment in a guy. However, the caller Armando, I think it is correct. Men today and women today are still pretty much the same psychologically and physically. I mean, one of the reasons why people have been going like paleo with a paleo diet is because like that was like the way we used to eat, I guess, back in the Paleolithic era. And we're talking about hunter gatherers and what was a human diet back then. I think it's interesting that we can all agree somewhat on a Paleolithic diet, but then like we're going to say, well, human beings are different now, and and we have control of ourselves, and monogamy, blah blah blah. Well, yeah, monogamy is definitely a social construct because it allowed for control over hypergamy. You got to understand that when we switched from a hypergamous almost polygamous coupling, I guess, from our hunter-gatherer days to our agrarian days, what it was more of like this social contract that said, well, even if you're a beta, you can still find like there's somebody for everybody. There's going to be one girl that's going to want to be your farming wife, and you can have little babies on your farm, and you can farm the land, and you can stick with one person. You can also see this in religious texts. If you go and you look at the Bible, for instance, if you look at the Old Testament, we're looking at like, say, the Old Testament heroes there who were very much polygamous. I mean, you look at Abraham. I mean, how many wives did he have, and how many maidservants did he impregnate so that he could create the tribes of Israel? Well, we have all that, but then suddenly in the New Testament, we've switched over to this monogamous ideal that there's only one man and one woman, and that's just the way it's been ordained. Well, that's not how it's been ordained, and we will conveniently change our social understanding, our moralistic understandings, and we'll change all this kind of stuff to complement or to, you know, sort of align with what it is that we think ought to be the standard for marriage right now. And I think that one of the things that we're seeing in this day and age after the sexual revolution, and where we've basically given hypergamy, all control of hypergamy, over to women, we're right now, I think, on the cusp of seeing a new standard for marriage and for relations between men and women. We're still clinging to that old social contract that says, you know, well, men and women should, you know, one man, one woman, and that's how we're going to do it. We're going to have the nuclear family and everything. We're seeing that destruction of the nuclear family right now. And we can argue about why it is that's going to happen, but what you can't argue about is that this is why, you know, we're seeing a shift right now. I'm seeing a lot of stuff right now about encouraging poly relationships or straight up cuckoldry. You know, it's like, well, I went and vetted my wife's boyfriend. You know, we see articles like this, and we you know, and we think, and it's all clickbait, of course, but we raise an eyebrow at it. But it's like, at what point does this become normalized? At what point do we say, yeah, well, I guess that's the way it is? Because I really see us sort of shifting back to a polygamous ideal, I guess, for marriage, but that polygamous ideal is going to be based in a female paradigm, where the females are going to be the ones who are choosing which males that they want to be polygamous with and which males that they want to be monogamous with, because we have completely abdicated all control of hypergamy over to women. And so I think really as a social contract, what monogamy did was it put controls and it put limits on women's hypergamy. And that was a good thing for a very, very long time. Now we've stripped all of that away with hormonal birth control, with creating a feminine-centric, gynocentric social order, and essentially expecting women to police the worst of their hypergamy. And we know I think right now we're seeing the results of that they simply aren't going to do that. And even the divorce industry, the divorce machine that we see right now, is a result of that, because they want the most that they can possibly get out of it. And also, just as a liner note here, I think that the Me Too and the Time's Up movement right now are also, at least in some way, considered an alternative to that resource transfer. That divorce used to be a good deal. Like a woman could always get out of a marriage if she wanted to. Maybe she would get her starter marriage and get her kids out of the way, and then divorce the guy after 7 years, like Rich was saying, and then go and decide that she was going to, you know, get out of the marriage before she's hit the wall, or more hit the wall, and find, you know, get her groove back, kind of thing. I think that the reason we see that is, you know, more and more guys are opting out of divorce. So there's got to be some alternative to that resource transfer that used to be there. And I think that Me Too and Time's Up are going to be seen as an alternative to that. So all you got to do is come out with these allegations, and then there's resource transfer right there. And so, and you'll see that more, I think, in businesses. You'll see it more, you know, all it has to be, you know, women are going to be believed by default. So you'll see all of this shit, all these allegations settled out of court, and the money will be transferred, and you won't even see the money being transferred.
Unbelievable.
You don't have to get married to lose half your shit anymore.
There you go. Sorry, I didn't mean to get too long-winded, but that's a deep topic.
What I'll do is I'll just sum up every time, you know, Rollo does a mic drop, boom, drops the mic. I'll just be like, so you don't have to get married to lose half your shit anymore. We got more callers?
We do. 914-205-5356 is the number to call if you want to get on the show. Let's go to Joe in Boston. Joe, you're on live at the Red Man Group.
Hey, thanks, guys. I just had a quick question. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with the recent hip-hop artist Mac Miller dying recently.
No, actually.
Is he one of those mumble rap guys that takes Vicodin all day?
I mean, I wouldn't really say he's a mumble rapper. I mean, he's kind of like from early 2000s.
Yeah, he's a mumble rapper.
Hip hop industry. Anyways, his girlfriend Ariana Grande, who everybody knows, like had got into basically they broke up. I think I've been studying it a little bit, researching it a little bit. They broke up like April 15th, and then April 18th she was engaged already to another man. Yep. And I don't know, it was like 2 weeks after they broke up. Then he ended up not committing suicide, but I mean unintentionally. I mean,
killing himself with
More brides make
and
sense.
I don't know, it just seems I've been looking into it. I didn't know if you guys had any insights on that situation because like they were engaged 2 weeks after they broke up and like to a new man, and I don't know.
This
is interesting.
To me, that's just this is standard operating procedure. I had never heard of this, but to me, there's nothing surprising about this.
It sounds a lot like Anthony Bourdain's story too, right?
Yeah,
he wrote out.
Listen, dude, like she had like listen, and again, don't think for one second that Ariana, whatever the hell I don't keep up with this stuff. Don't think for one second that she wasn't already fucking the dude that she was engaged to 2 weeks after she.
Oh, sure, for sure.
Yeah, this is American Women 101, and then of course, just like Rollo said, I don't know that you would consider him to be zeroed out, but this is why he probably engaged in self-destructive behaviors because he was heartbroken over this Ariana chick.
Well, let me tell you why I think he was zeroed out. People go, well, how can you say that? He had all this money, he had all this fame, he had all this shit that was going for him. Well, that is true. But then we see these guys who like have everything going for them, and we go, my God, he could go and have any chick that he wanted to have because he's got social proof, he's got money, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But the problem is he is that much invested in his blue pill ideals that it feels like he's being zeroed out. Like if all that matters to you is that chick, if you believe in the soulmate myth, if you believe in if you're like wrapped up in one-itis with this person, if you think that this person is your soulmate and there's no other more perfect girl for you out there, and you'll never get a hotter chick than this, and you're completely in love with her, and she's just like, no, I'm gonna go fuck this dude over here, and then just completely unrequited. Men tend to love idealistically, women love opportunistically, and when that opportunism comes out and sort of contradicts that man's idealism, that can feel like getting zeroed out. And that can be like, you got Anthony Bourdain, for instance, like he was like so in love with Asia Argento, and we look at Asia Argento and we go, what the fuck was he thinking? And then we look at this and you look at his past and you look at what he was all about when it come to to his blue pill idealism, and then you go, yeah, of course I see it. He was zeroed out, and so is Mac Miller, I think, zeroed out.
Cool. Do we have another caller? Donovan, you're muted. Donovan, there you go. Yeah.
Got it. Good to go. All right, let's go back to the phone lines. Jose in San Francisco. You're on live with the Red Man Group. Go ahead.
How's it going, guys? Thank you for taking in the calls.
Yes, sir.
So I have hello?
Yeah, go ahead. You got it.
So I have an issue that's going on. So I have 80% custody of my children, right? So I don't know if I should file for child support.
Well, why wouldn't you? I mean, if you're taking care of them 80% of the time, the money should flow to you.
Get that money, man. You kidding me?
Do you need it? That's another question.
Okay. Well, not really, but.
Or do they need it? I should say.
Why does a mother only have access 20% of the time?
Because well, what happened, she had left to Mexico for like 6 months, and she took the kids with her without my consent. And when she came back into the country, I took her to court for that.
Okay. So does she still get to see the children?
Yeah.
And she lives locally? Like, is she in the same school zone and everything, or does she still live in Mexico?
Yeah. Well, she's only a few blocks away from where I live.
Well, I mean, women earn child support payments from the fathers, again, like 80% of the time, right? So if you're the primary caregiver, then you need to pay for meals, you're paying for clothing, you're probably paying for most of the extracurriculars, you're driving around, you're putting gas in the tank. I mean, right? I mean, as a parent, you're supposed to take care of your kids. Now, the tables, in my view, are not fair. So, if the child support tables say that, like if you got one kid, for example, and the child support table on her income says she needs to pay like $1,600 a month, you can be a dick and take it. But if it only costs you like, $400 for food, for extracurriculars, for swimming classes, like whatever it is, go with whatever you need to outside of that. I mean, the difference with it in family law when it comes to women, if they need the child support for the man, they'll go on the table. They won't contract outside of that. In fact, if you try to contract outside of that, you sign a parenting agreement that says $400 a month, but the table says $1,600. It's not that uncommon for women to open that up 6-8 months down the road and then get the $1,600 once you're out of the house and things have changed, the dust has settled, and it's a lot easier for her to get the money. But it's entirely up to you. I mean, it costs money to raise children. It costs money to put them through extracurriculars. It costs money to clothe them. It costs money to go to birthday parties. If you're doing most of the parenting, it only makes sense that she should be throwing some money your way to take care of the kids.
Listen, I agree with you, Richard, and I'll take it one step further. Let's say that you were a woman calling into a woman's show, right? And the woman says, yeah, I've got 80%. I've got it. Yeah, you're laughing because you already know where I'm going with this.
Right.
And says, yeah, I've got 80% custody of the kids, but I don't really need the child support. You know what all those bitches are going to tell him? Bitch, go get that money. It takes two to tango. He made those kids. He's got to pay for them. Bruh, I'm trying to tell you, Jose, go after that child support because trust and believe, my man, if she were in your position, she'd be taking your ass to court too.
Whoopi told you to, so do it.
Don't get it, bruh. She would absolutely take you to court.
I was actually paying child support prior to that.
Oh, so, bruh, listen, take her to court, man. You better get that money.
Yeah.
Jose, you better get that money. Thanks for the call. Let's go back to the phone lines. Paul, in
general advice to some guys, learn how to file simple things in court yourself.
Hi, guys.
Hey, Paul, what's going on? Sorry about that. Carl didn't mean to bring him on. What were you saying, Carl?
No, just saying for guys who are divorced, and especially if you have a high conflict former spouse, learn how to file simple legal documents yourself.
Yeah, LegalZoom.com is a very good resource to do that.
Because I know guys who have, especially guys who have children and co-parent with, especially BPD and NPD women, they have to more or less file court claims every couple of weeks. The guy's back in court filing for something, violation of parenting right, non-payment of child support, etc., etc.
All right, Paul in California, you're on live with the Red Man Group. Go ahead, brother.
Hi, so I have children from 2 different marriages and all boys. So I want to know, what can I do to help guide them post-divorce into red pill? Because my youngest is already saying, oh, mom's always right, and this is, how it is for the women. And I kind of helped fuel that, being blue pilled.
Of course.
And I just want to know how to not shake his beliefs right now and, just make him an upstanding man post-divorce, which he's very well adjusted being the youngest, and co-parenting is going great right now. So I just want to know post-divorce and keeping him, I guess.
He follows your examples more than your words, if that's where you're going with this.
Yeah, kids are always going to watch what you do rather than what you say.
Yeah, listen, we always say when we talk about the red pill, don't watch what a woman says, watch what she does. Well, kids.
Same thing applies.
Yeah, same thing applies. And we always hear parent, and I'm not a parent, but listen, do as I say, not as I do. You don't have to tell your kids that. They're going to do what you do anyway. You can tell your kid, clean up your room, but if you don't clean up your own room, they're not going to clean theirs.
Okay, time for shameless self-promotion. Pick up pick up my 3rd book, Positive Masculinity. The first third of that book is written exactly for what you just called. I wrote about how to be a red pill parent in there. In fact, there is a chapter in there saying that is called the red pill parent. Pick that up and you can have a better idea.
How old are the kids and what's your parenting schedule? Like, you share parenting? Is she the primary caregiver?
Yeah, he's gone.
He's gone. Okay. All right. Go ahead.
Yep.
Next caller.
All right. Let's go back to the phone lines. Didn't get the stats on this one. Looks like they're calling from out of the country. Undocumented caller. You're on live with the Red. It's probably not the best term for that, but yeah, you're on live with the Red Man Group.
Hi guys, do you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Thank you for everything you do. I just recently found your channel and read Rose book. So I have a simple question. I'm 31 years old.
Okay.
I'm about to get married, living with a girl for 4 years. I just have this gut feeling that something is not okay. So my question is, when a guy decides to marry, because I want to assist in family, is it okay about having some hesitation, or I have to be 100% sure that there are no red flags, and etc.? What's your opinion on this?
Well,
thank you very much.
Hold on. Let's
get what sort of hesitation? Like, what are the red flags?
There you go. Exactly. Like, what are you seeing and hearing?
So, for example, my financial condition is much better than hers.
Oh,
my family is richer than hers. My career perspectives are much better. Also, I'm constantly checking out other girls. I don't know if this is normal or not. And she wants to go constantly to her family to spend a lot of time with her with her family, so I'm not very okay with this because we live in Europe and the distance is not very small, traveling between the cities.
How old is she?
She's 29. That's the other problem, that she's reaching her, she's hitting the law soon. So
man.
I feel like I'm losing her time.
Yep.
So I have,
Caller, do you want to have kids?
yes, I want. I'm not sure.
Okay.
But I want, yes.
Hang on a sec. You said yes, and then you said, I'm not sure. Is it yes or I'm not sure?
I'm sure, but I'm not sure is the correct moment now.
Okay. So then the answer is no, because you don't get married until you're sure. If you're basically vetting for wife stock, which is what you're saying, to raise children, and you're not sure about having kids, you don't get married. Okay. I talk to a lot of guys that I coach that say, you know, like, I wasn't sure when I got married, and then they end up like accidentally slipping and falling and getting pregnant. And then, you know, 3 years later, they wonder what the hell they're doing and how they're ever going to see their kid again. Like, you can't sleepwalk through life. If you sleepwalk through life, not making awake decisions and thinking, well, I'm not sure if I want to have kids or if I want to get married, I'm unsure about the chick. The answer is no. If it's not a hell yeah, it's a fuck no.
Listen, I agree with Richard, and here's the thing. If a man gets down on one knee and proposes to a woman and she says, I don't know, the general consensus is if you don't know, you know. If you're not 100% certain that, listen, you know you want to get married and you know you want to have kids, but you're hesitant with this girl. It sounds to me like you're viewing her through the lens of the 24-year-old you met 4 years ago, or 25-year-old you met 4 years ago.
Yes.
Now,
Yes.
Exactly. Now, I don't know, 24, 25 years old. Yeah, maybe she was, at that point, maybe she was wife material. Dude, she's about to be 30. Dude, do you really, and you're only 32. Do you really want to have kids with a woman who's pushing 30? She's going to push the kid out at 31 years old.
Yeah,
You're only
exactly.
32. You are clearly in a better financial position than she is, which really isn't bad. But let's keep it real here. This is one of the reasons she's with you. Do you really want to put yourself in that position? Like, play this forward. What do you think your life is going to be like 3 years from now? Are you going to regret this decision, or do you think that you're going to be happy?
I feel I'm going to regret it, but what to do? I mean, in this case, how do you break up? I have no argument. Well, I break with you because I don't know why. How do you break up in this situation?
Where do you live in Europe, by the way? You're in Eastern Europe?
You sound like he's from Ukraine, or?
Yes, in Eastern. Yes.
Okay, and what does family law look like where you live? Like, is it assumed 50-50 custody? Like, how do they operate where you live?
50-50. Yeah.
Okay, so I've talked to guys in your region, and it's a lot easier for guys to get divorced there. So, I mean, the risk is a little bit lower if it doesn't work out, but it doesn't change the fact that you're not sure, that it's not a hell yes. I mean, marriage is not one of those things that you just kind of like sleepwalk into. It's like, oh, all of a sudden I'm married one day. It's like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, the right woman can make your life better, or the wrong woman can make it fucking worse. The problem is most guys go the wrong woman route, right? Because they're not properly vetting. Sean Smith's book, Tactical Guide to Women, you should read that. I mean, you should have a clear understanding of if this person is something that you can be with on a long-term basis and they tick off all the boxes, or by the end of the book, you might find out that there's more red flags than a Chinese Communist parade and you need to say, see you later. And how do you break up with her? Just break up with her. Just fucking stand up, grab your balls, lift up your skirt, and be a man and say, we're fucking done here. It's run its course.
Listen, that's what this is about. Listen, this guy's already got his mind made up. But I think what you're trying to reconcile is the fact, and don't get it twisted. This isn't a difficult decision. The execution is going to be difficult because what's going through your mind, you're like, okay, I know I don't want to marry this girl, but you're telling us you're not sure. No, you're sure. You made this decision a long time ago.
Exactly.
But here's what you need to understand. You're 32 years old. This is your come to Jesus moment, man. This is the fork in the road. You're going to have to understand that the right decisions or the right thing to do in life is often synonymous with the most difficult. No, it's not going to be easy to dump your living girlfriend you've been with for the last 4 years. But guess what, dude? If you don't do it 5-10 years from now, you're going to wish that you did. So
I'll add this to it too. The reason you seem to be hooked on looking for a reason is because you don't want to take responsibility for a hard decision.
Oh, there it is. There it is.
You're going to have to be the bad guy. There's just no way around it, and that's fine.
I was also gonna say is like this woman is clearly in her epiphany phase, and I don't know how the socioeconomic situation goes where you're at, but I do know that women all over the world pretty much follow a predictable plan when it comes to, you know, their lives and hypergamy and everything else. And this woman is in what I call her epiphany phase. So she's looking to cash out before, you know, she gets to a point where she can no longer attract or be intrasexually competitive anymore. The other thing is, I think that another thing you're going to have to deal with is if you decide that you're going to break up with her, what is going to proceed next is she's going to say you're not a man. She's going to try to remove your manhood from you and say, well, you know, you need to man up, or you need to step up, or, you know, you're not getting any younger. What she doesn't realize is that you're at least, if you're calling here, you got to be red pill aware to some degree. And you know that your best years, you haven't even hit your stride yet. If you think about it, I mean, your peak years are still probably like within the next 4 years, you will be hitting your stride. And you will have more sexual selection the older you get. I mean, even if you have a Huffington Post, it can go all the way to 50, but I don't believe that. But just understand that the next attack she's going to throw at you is she's going to say, she's going to question your manhood, and she's going to say you're too insecure if you do break up with her. But just understand that that's coming, because that's the most common response you'll get from women in their epiphany phase.
Listen, she's not going to take this well. Okay. Listen, understand, just like Ryan said, dude, you're going to have to be the bad guy. When LeBron James went from, and you probably aren't aware of this.
Who is this LeBron James?
well, remember just check this out. When LeBron James the first time went from Cleveland to Miami back in 2010, people burned his jerseys, right? And the press was there. Why are you burning his jersey? Well, we don't really mind that he went to Miami. It's the way he did it. No, it's that he did it. No man or woman in the history of relationships have ever said, you know what? My boyfriend or girlfriend of 4 years just dumped me, right? Unceremoniously. But you want to know something? I like the way he or she handled that. So I'm not going to have any ill feelings about that. No, it's not how you did it. It's that you did it. You're going to be the bad guy, bruh. She's going to run a smear campaign. She's going to call you gutless. She's going to tell you that you're not a man. She's going to launch an all-out assault to try to shame you into getting back with her. Don't you believe it? Because I'm gonna tell you one thing: at 37 years old, instead of fucking 29-year-olds, you're gonna be fucking 19 and 20-year-olds, and you're gonna thank your lucky stars every day that you called into this show on Saturday, September 15, 2018. Congratulations, we just saved your life.
That's the greatest plug I've ever heard for Red Man Group.
That's okay. So on that note, since we're on such a great high, in the description below, guys, if you're watching this, you want to support these men doing this work, there's social links, there's links to Patreon, there's links to their blogs, their books. Go there. That's where you can connect with them on a more deep basis. But yeah, as somebody else also pointed in the comments, this episode just saved this guy's life.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah. Do we have any more callers online, or are we done?
Oh, that's it. Looks like
all right. So I guess we're wrapping up. We've been on it for a couple hours. Let's do closing remarks, unless Carl's got something to add to that. Caller, he's been kind of sitting back there and quiet in the background.
Carl's fucking Tinder hose, man. You kidding me?
You swiping? Carl, you there? Or are you swiping?
No, I'm not swiping. My phone is being blown up at the moment.
Yeah.
All right. So closing remarks. Rollo, you've got something to wrap up on this, I'm sure. Guys, you know, considering where they're at when it comes to divorce and next steps, or even post-divorce, what do you want to tell people out there?
Go watch Divorce Incorporated, especially if you're in the U.S. or in any sort of Western country. I don't really know exactly how it works in, like, say, the UK, but I can't imagine it's any much better than that. Also, consider this is if you're deciding whether or not you want to get divorced, or if you are in the middle of a divorce, try to have some introspect and try to have some idea as to what your own sort of misgivings are. There's nothing worse than a blue pill guy who is trapped in a bad marriage, or is going through a divorce and simply doesn't understand what is going on, because all of the shit that he has been sold for most of his life from the blue pill is is falling down on top of him. Like I said, too many guys get into something like this and then they get zeroed out and then they kill themselves, and that is not good for anybody. And that's one of the reasons I started writing in the first place, because my brother-in-law ended up getting zeroed out by my sister-in-law and decided to hang himself as a result of that. So that was the catalyst for that was a divorce. So just if this is you, hit me up on Twitter or hit me up wherever, and you can talk about it, or you can just watch this, or go back through this or call Rich, but don't think for a second that you're alone. And if you have other questions, or if there's some other sort of information that you need, there's resources out there. That's one of the benefits, I think, of the manosphere right now, is like, we're here to help. I mean, there are many guys who have aggregated their experiences, particularly when it comes to divorce. I think one of the things that really leads guys to the red pill in the first place is divorce. And so they're looking to sort of just untangle all of this bullshit that they're going through. And they don't realize that the reason that they are having to untangle it in the first place is because they still believe in this kind of Pollyanna blue pill Disney bullshit, that women love them or should love them exactly the same way that they believe that they can love them. They don't understand that women love opportunistically and then men love idealistically. So when you have that split, you have that woman who's thinking opportunistically, and you have the guy, the blue pill guy, who is thinking idealistically and wondering why he can't put it back together again, and wondering, like I said in the beginning of this, most guys want to save their marriages. They don't want to break up with their girl. They want it to be, something that they can get back together with. So just remember that the resources are out there. And I think that if this is your catalyst to help you unplug and to sort of kick off that, your red pill awareness, it's a hard way to do it, but experience teaches best, but it teaches harsh. So there you go.
All right. Closing remarks from you, Ryan?
Yeah, going to be a little bit of a pep talk here. So I stole it was from Del Rock. It's called New Year's Resolutions. I actually made a blog post on it, if you see it there. And you don't need a reason to want what you want. You don't have to be rational. You don't have to be reasonable. You can't want to ditch your girl for any other reason. Like, there is no good reason that you're going to come up with that's going to make life smooth. So embracing your inner asshole is more than just about acting cocky and funny so you get laid. It's having a goal and being willing to scorched earth in order to get what you want. I've seen it firsthand. My hometown, huge divorce waves after the softwood lumber disputes kind of killed the logging industry, and every one of my family friends got divorced. And of those, half the guys ended up with a drug problem or a suicide, with the exception of my stepfather, who was probably the biggest asshole of them all. So I'm not acting tough here because I think it sounds cool to swear on the internet. What I'm saying is, like, you're the only one who's going to wipe your own ass. So you got to start treating yourself better and stop worrying about looking for a reason outside of you to justify what you're doing. There's no justification required. And that's all I got on this. And I hope over the last couple of questions I've run my mouth on and answering, I've kind of articulated this concept. And that's all I got to say on that.
All right, Donovan, closing remarks.
Yeah, I think the very first question is the most important question, is what do guys need to know about divorce that they don't already otherwise know? And I think the most important, there are many, many things that men need to know, but you have to know and understand that, dude, once she's gone, man. And again, man, like, I'm here to tell you, I get it. I understand you're emotionally tied to this woman. You feel like you're zeroed out. You have everything. You feel like you have everything riding on this woman. It's a lot easier said than done, but it has to be done. You have to understand she's gone, man. She is fucking someone. Someone has stuck. Listen, dude, someone has inserted their dick into your soon-to-be ex-wife's mouth. Like, burn that image into your head, man. Cry about it. Let it sting. Don't eat for a few days. Like, you have to let it sting, because only then will you start to reconcile the fact that you really do need to move on. And once you have that mindset, then you're in the mental state to do what you need to do as a man to make sure you don't get got. Other than that, DonovanSharp.com, patreon.com/Donovan Sharp. And I've got Triple G knocking out Canelo in the 9th round, if he can find him with that right. Something he was unable to do in fight number 1.
Carl, closing remarks.
Yeah, I think the most important thing is the red pill is about embracing the difficult choice and doing what you have to do, not what you may want to do. And I think a lot of the guys here, they're just looking for an excuse. They want, like Ryan said, they want a reason to do what they want, and they are kind of pussyfooting around doing what they have to do because they know the misery they're in now. They don't know the misery they may be in. And I think the final remark I have is just from this podcast: don't hit 30 chicks on Tinder with the you're doing a podcast.
Oh, okay. So you cut out there for a sec. So I think you said in your closing remark that don't hit up 30 chicks on Tinder that you're doing a podcast.
No, don't hit the 30 chicks on Tinder with the Dream Johnson opener right before you're going on a podcast.
Oh, that's why the phone was blowing up. Got it. Okay. All right. So my final comments, closing remarks is, of course, guys, I've said this before. Men are masters of complicating their lives and then justifying why they do it. Stop making excuses for your shit. Be attentive. Stop sleepwalking through life. I'm not going to bang on too much because I know we had some great callers and some good content here. There's a couple hours of guys rapping on. I'm going to link in the comments here a video that I did on divorce. It's a half an hour long. It's a YouTube link. So if you're not familiar with my channel, go watch that. Check it out. Subscribe to my work if you like it. And if you need coaching on how to navigate your divorce, I've also linked after that my Clarity link, clarity.fm/Richard Cooper. Yeah, I'm not cheap. I charge as much as a lawyer, but I'll get you way more fucking value than what a lawyer will. He won't tell you things that I can tell you. Trust me. I've done this hundreds of times now. So again, if you're going through something and you're in a sticky situation, give me a buzz. I'm happy to coach you through it and get you out the other side a lot better than what you would have done without me. So thank you, everybody, for watching today's broadcast. Again, next week, same place, same time, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. There'll be another Red Man Group, number 31. If you're watching the recording, guys, it's because you did not hit the notification bell and set reminder on this channel. So subscribe, hit the notification bell, and then set reminder when the event's created. We always promote it on social media several days before the broadcast with a topic. If it's something you like, you can join us. If it's something you don't like, hey, skip it. You can watch the next one. I know I've seen some complaints from people like, why do you have that person on? We don't agree with them. Okay, fine. Skip that episode. Watch the next one. And keep an eye open on the channel for best of Red Man groups because we're taking little sound bites of stuff and I'm publishing them out throughout the course of the week just so you get little distilled versions of the entire broadcast. Thanks, everybody, for watching, and we'll see you next time. Peace.
Thanks.
Sure.